Guys, welcome back. Today we are going to be working in our backyard and we are going to be planting up some bulbs in container for spring color. One of the things that I always kick myself for not doing in the fall time is planting more bulbs in containers. That way we have a beautiful show to admire in the springtime. I know planting bulbs is not everybody's favorite, but you will thank yourself when you have gone the whole winter with nothing going on in your garden, and then all of a sudden these beautiful little flowers start to emerge, and then you're reminded that spring is coming and summer's around the corner, and it's just a very, very exciting time. I was actually on social media the other day and I saw this video that came up on my feed of this gal, and I'll pop up the video here up on the screen, but she planted like a bulb lasagna, essentially is what it is. And I've seen these done before, and I always tell myself every year that I'm going to do it. And then of course I never get around to doing it, but we are going to do it today because I want to ensure myself that I have these containers planted up and ready to go. And then we can pop them all over the garden and display them and enjoy beautiful pops of color in other areas other than the landscape. This is going to be a really fun little project to do now, and it's not going to be as gratifying today as it will be in the springtime. So let me show you the containers that we're going to be working with today, and then we will just talk right through some of the things that you'll need, and then we'll jump right in. For today, we are going to be using a few different containers, and then we'll go over the bulbs here in just a second. And these are bulbs that I just recently picked up. I do have a couple of boxes of bulbs that we ordered in bulk for the landscape, but I'm thinking some of these containers, I like these terracotta ones. I got these from my friend who just actually moved to Europe, and I don't know if I love the design on these quite yet. I think I would like them more if they were like a little bit, had a lime wash on them. So I might do that once we get them planted up, but for sure I want to get these two planted because I really like the shape of these two containers. So you're going to need a container, you're going to need some potting soil, and then I recommend you use bone meal or bulb tone or biotone, which is what I'm going to use today. I prefer bone meal or bulb tone, but since I don't have that on hand, I'm just going to use a little bit of biotone to charge up our soil. Again, essentially what we're doing is creating a bulb lasagna. We're going to be planting our taller bulbs on the bottom, our medium length bulbs in the middle, and then our shortest on the top. That way we are going to have a series of blooms throughout springtime. Let me show you the bulbs that we're going to be planting today. I kind of have an idea of the color combinations I want to use, and then we'll open them up and then I will show you on our table how we're going to layer them. All right, I just grabbed one of our bulk bags of bulbs. We'll use those as well. But let's go over some of the tulips and the other bulbs that we got here, starting out with these, which is just a beautiful pink with a little bit of peach at the tips. This one is called the Salmon Prince. I love these. This one is one that I've grown before and it's absolutely stunning. This is Black Parrot, and it just has these like scalloped little edges, if you can see that. I love this one, and it's such a beautiful color in the garden. And then we have these hyacinth, and I actually love this tone of purple because it's not too dark, but it's not too bright. So I think this one is going to be absolutely beautiful. We also have, actually, these are going to be for another project, so I'll just set those aside. We have Joan of Arc crocus. These are just so sweet and white. And then we also have these pink pearl hyacinths. Again, just a really soft color. We have Lion King Dutch iris, which look at how pretty those are. And then we have Muscari Julia, one of my favorite muscaris. These are so pretty. And then for our last hyacinth, we have Gypsy Princess, which is just a very muted light yellow. And with these, I think I'm going to pair them with our daffodils here. This is just a mixed daffodil mix that I picked up. These are actually supposed to be going out in the front, and I actually have a really fun idea for these. But I'm gonna go ahead and take some out of here because we have a couple of these bags, and then we'll use that in one of the containers, or maybe two of the containers. So here's what I'm thinking. We will pair the Salmon Prince tulips, and we'll do 15 per container. That will be our bottom layer. And then, let's think about this. The pink pearl hyacinths will go next, and we'll do 5 bulbs in each container. And then finally, I think the crocus will go last. So this will just be a very soft, very, very like girly color palette. And then in our second container, we will come in, or our other 2 pairs of containers, we will come in with the black parrot tulips. And then we will pair that with these hyacinths. And then I actually want to come in with the Lion King iris at the top. I think this will play really well with the hyacinth and some of the deeper tones of the parrot tulip. So we'll do that combination. And then our last combination, we'll do a mix of the daffodils. We'll come in with the yellow hyacinths and then the Mascari Julia. I love the combination of purple and blue and yellow. So these will just be a really nice pop of yellow and a little bit of warmth. And so we'll do 2 containers of each. A standard tulip you typically plant about 46 inches deep. However, if you look at the back, there are several varieties that require them to go a little bit deeper. There are some varieties that are a little bit shorter. It also depends on if they're early or late blooming tulips. So always refer to the package as far as your planting depth. With these, I'm gonna go about 6 inches deep. And then our hyacinth, we can go about 46 inches deep with these. And with the crocus, we'll go shallow with about 2 to 4 inches deep. Now what this will look like is if we open these up, we're going to layer, make sure these guys don't roll off. We are going to be planting these pointy side up like this. And these are all going to go in one layer. I'm just showing this so you can kind of see what they're going to look like. And then right above it, we are going to go with our hyacinths. These will go right above, just like this. Again, a single layer. And then at the very top, we will go in with our crocus. I'm not going to take all of these out, but they will go right at the top, just like this. Hence the reference to a bulb lasagna. Okay, we are going to start out by adding some soil to our container. Now you want to make sure whatever container you use, it has good drainage, because these are going to be out in the elements, and we want to make sure if it rains on them that they have proper drainage. All right, I'm going to add just a little bit of biotone in here to charge up the soil and give our bulbs a good head start. It's kind of like baking, but not the thing you would want to eat, but the thing you'd want to admire. And now we will start out with our tulips. So we will go ahead and place pointy side up and flat side down, just like this. If you accidentally planted them on their side, it's okay. They will find their way up. I just like to give them just the best opportunity to grow upright. But that's the great thing about tulips and even daffodils and some other bulbs, is they'll always find their way up. And we'll do 5 out of this bag. And I'm going to plant these pretty tightly. I'm not too worried about giving them too much space because they're not going to be here for a long period of time. I will most likely take out these bulbs after they're done blooming and plant them out in the landscape, with the exception of tulips, because they don't naturalize as well as something like a daffodil does. All right, first layer in. Now let's come in with some more soil. All right, second layer going in, and we're gonna be doing the hyacinths. And I will just spread these out like this. We don't have too many of these, so I wanna make sure I'm evenly spreading them out. I have a runaway bulb. I don't know where the other one went. 5. Nope, that was my bad. There's only 5. I thought there were 6. So I will go ahead and just tuck these in just like this. And then we will do our final layer of soil. Just kidding, we have one more layer. So now I'm gonna come in with the crocus. And again, we're just gonna go about 2 inches deep on these. It's so funny because every spring there's so many other gardeners that I admire that have these beautiful displays of bulbs, and I always kick myself for not getting ours planted in time. We get them in the landscape, but I always tell myself, okay, don't forget, plant up containers. Even if you're not gonna plant it in a decorative container, just plant some in like a plastic container. That way I can use them for projects, which we will talk about that in a bit. And then I forget about it. And then I'll go to somebody like, I don't know, Klaus Dolby, and he is just a master of containers and displays of bulbs. So is Caroline. Gosh, I forget her last name, but I'll post up some pictures from their Instagram. But oh my goodness, they have the most beautiful bulb displays. And one year I would love to do that. Just buy a bunch of like beautiful terracotta containers and just have a massive display of bulbs somewhere. I don't know where we would put it, maybe in front of our garage door or who knows, but it would just be so beautiful. And there's our yummy lasagna. Let's go ahead and plant our other container up, and then we will move on to our next recipe. All right, first container is done. Let's move on to our purple magic container. Now for this container, I am going to plant 9 bulbs of the tulips, and we'll continue with the 5 for the hyacinth, and then 12 of the irises. If you haven't purchased bulbs yet, it's not too late. There are a ton of garden centers that are still selling bulbs right now. In fact, that's where I got ours. It was at Al's Garden Center. So there's plenty of time for you to get yours. And then the ones that we got from wholesale, we actually ordered them from Dutch Grown and then also tulips.com. I'll link them down below in the description box. So I used both companies for different bulbs, but if you want to order in bulk, you can certainly do that right now. And a lot of them are having amazing sales. So you can order a ton of bulbs for a pretty good price. And they ship relatively soon too. So I think we got ours within like maybe 7 days or so from both places. So if you haven't ordered bulbs and you would like to still get some in the ground, it's not too late. I think these are gonna just smell so good when you walk by them. I love the scent of hyacinths. And these do pretty well for us. They naturalize okay. Not as good as the daffodils. But I will dig these up after they're done blooming and after their leaves have browned up, and then plant the bulbs out in the landscape, and hopefully they'll do something. Just look like a little shallot. Look at that. That's so cute. We'll just pop them in. I can't remember if I did biotone or not. So I'll see it when I go edit this. Hopefully I did, but if I didn't, it's okay. I will come in with bulb tone in the springtime and just sprinkle some on top and it'll be fine. It's not a deal breaker, so it's okay. All right, this one is now done and we will move on to our next container, which will be just like this one. And then we will move on to our last recipe. All right, last container, and we are going to be using our bulb mix of daffodils here. These are going to go out into the landscape, but I figured I ordered so many of them that I could spare, well, let's say like 10. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Lucky number 10. And then these will definitely be planted out in the landscape once they're done blooming in these containers. I plan on leaving these containers out in the elements. We garden here again in the Pacific Northwest, which means we get a lot of rain, which is fine because they have good drainage holes and we're using potting soil. Now, if we do have long periods of rain, I will go ahead and cover these up with tarp so they don't get waterlogged, because they are in the container. They will have good drainage, but sometimes if it rains too much, then they can just be sitting in water for a long period of time. So I don't want that. But for the times that I have planted out tulips in containers out in our landscape, they haven't had an issue, but just in case, I will cover them with a tarp, but we'll just leave them out here out in the side garden probably until we are ready to place them where we want them in the springtime. Another thing I wanted to mention is if you have plastic containers laying around, this is also a good time to plant those up, like those nursery cans, and use those blooms for the springtime, because you can find bulbs, especially if you're gonna be buying in bulk, for really, like a really good price right now. And you can just plant like 3 per like little 1-gallon container. That way, if you have projects that you're going to be working on or containers in the springtime, you already have those ready to go. Because I notice a lot of times when you go to nurseries and you buy like planted bulbs and containers, they're usually like $15, $16 for 3 bulbs. And it's like, that, I mean, I get it. They did the work of growing it, right? But if you have the space to just, I don't know, do like 10 1-gallon container and just put tulips in them and then just forget about them until the springtime, I think that is such a nice payoff. And it doesn't cut into your garden budget too much for the year, because you're not spending a ton of money on, 3 potted tulips or 2 potted I cannot pronounce it, hyacinth. So it's just one of those things that I like to keep in mind, because I do plan on having tulips in our spring containers next year. So in the back of my mind, I'm telling myself, make sure that I go pick up some tulips. And these don't have to be like crazy expensive tulips. Find ones that are reasonably priced and a good color, because sometimes I will treat tulips as annuals, especially in our containers. But anyways, so it's just one of those things to think about right now, is planting your own so you're not paying big bucks for them in the springtime. Because I plan on leaving these out, I'm going to go ahead and cover them with chicken wire as well, so the squirrels don't dig into them, because I know once they see this, they're going to get very, very excited about it. So I'll make sure to protect the soil. So if you have critters that have a tendency of digging into your containers, just think about doing a just like a small piece of chicken wire on top. And they're not terribly expensive, actually. You can buy them at big box stores, or netting would work too. The other thing you can keep in mind is thinking about buying bulbs that bloom at different times. So you can have the early blooming ones, the mid-season blooming ones, and then the late spring blooming ones. I find that the early and mid-spring ones do a little bit better for us. And I think it probably has to do because we get so much rain that I feel like the blooms don't get a very good chance to bloom. If we have them in our raised beds, if I'm growing like tulips for cut flowers, they do okay because the soil in there is very well draining. But in our landscape, we do a lot of compost, but we still have heavy clay. So sometimes it can be an issue for us. Not too bad, not to the point where I avoid planting late blooming ones. But I do notice a little bit of a difference. I feel like our early blooming ones and our mid blooming ones tend to really put on a show. So that's also something to keep in mind. And I mentioned these are going to be outside, and I'm not going to worry about them being too cold or anything like that. Bulbs like a period of chill time, so these will do fantastic out here. And remember, anything that you have in a container is always going to be a little bit cooler than whatever you plant in the ground in your landscape, because obviously the temperatures in there are going to be warmer. So that is also not something to worry about, because tulips, all of these bulbs actually can handle that chill. Even if it snows, I'm not going to worry about it. I won't have to move them. They're going to be perfectly fine. In fact, they require a good period of chill time to bloom well. All right, now that we have them all planted, I am not going to water these in because we have rain on the forecast. So I'm not worried about getting these watered in. If you live in an area that you have a long period before it rains again, go ahead and just give them a good watering, and then just pay attention to their moisture level. You don't want the soil to completely dry out. Of course, you don't want it to be drenched in water all of the time, but just keep in mind, we often forget to water our containers in the winter time. So don't do that. Make sure you go out and you check all of your potted plants or trees that are out in the landscape or on your deck or patio, wherever they may be, and just make sure that you're constantly checking on them throughout the season to make sure they don't dry completely out. Obviously, it won't be as quickly as they do in the summertime, but they will dry out. Again, these will go in our side garden, and once we get closer to springtime, I will come in and just put these around in our landscape, maybe some in the cut flower garden, just to start enjoying some blooms. I am very happy that I'm getting this done because I really truly kick myself every year for not doing this. And then I see other people with their beautiful blooming spring containers with bulbs, and I'm just like, why didn't I do it? So it's one of those projects that it's fun to do right now. You can do it on your deck. You don't have to be out in the elements, and it's just the perfect weather to get this done. Again, you're not too late to do it. I know some big box stores are probably out of bulbs, but you can still find them at nurseries. Again, I will link down below the 2 companies that I ordered are bulk bulbs from, which we will be planting out here pretty soon together, which I'm very excited about. I think I over-ordered a little bit, because when we got the boxes, I was like, what was I doing? Like, what was I thinking? Because originally I was just going to be planting a lot in the front, but there's just too many bulbs to go in the front. So I think we'll have to put some in the back. Of course, you can never have too many. You can always find a space for them. But I am excited to get those planted. And again, like I said, we will do that together. I hope that this video was a good reminder and inspiration for you to get out and start planting some of your containers with some bulbs. Even if you have existing containers with plants in them, tuck in some bulbs in there just so you can ensure yourself that you're going to have some spring color. And I am probably going to go out and get a few more bulbs just to do a few more containers that we have laying around, because why not? So anyways, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today in my garden, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.